So good morning to everybody.
Good morning. Morning.
It's very nice to be here. I see why many people from the north move south.
That's right.
And I first want to thank Ken Wolfro, who set up this whole thing. It's his home. He also has, as many of you maybe know, a wonderful series of concerts. This is the second year. Also Karen Allred. Is Karen here? She's not here yet. Okay, and Olga James. Also not here. Okay, then we come on. I just wanted to know how many people have been exposed to this work in any fashion. Okay, some lessons, maybe the internet, yeah? For how many people is it completely new? Okay, so what, you just read about it and thought that it might be interesting to, maybe interesting to hear. How many people have experienced any symptoms? Anything from fatigue to limitations to pain? Okay. So not being able to play certain pieces, being frustrated. Yeah? Okay. So, in a way, I promise a lot I can deliver only a certain amount, because this work is quite huge. What exists in what looks so simple is quite complex. But there's certain things that I think it would help all of us to know, to have this certain amount of information to know what causes problems. And if you don't have any problems, which is a good place to be, or just a little bit of fatigue, how to keep it that way. How not to get into trouble. Because they're very, very definite things that exist in playing the instrument, any instrument. And I also thought to mention, I'm going to have an hour after lunch of questions and answers. And people are sometimes shy about asking. They think that they will look stupid. But any question that you ask helps everybody else. You don't have to, but you will learn when people say something, we all in it together. I mean, we all come from a similar background. The problems come from certain definite reasons, and you can ask. And also, it turns out that how we play the piano and how we play other instruments, how we use our hands, has to do with the question of why so many computer users, the typing, causes so many injuries for people who don't play any instrument. Even holding and texting. The articles after articles about it, and the solution don't seem to work. And there is a common denominator to how we use our hands anywhere. Even how we cut in the kitchen, chefs have a lot of injuries. It's a very worldwide and very global. Like the corona is like everybody, it puts the whole world together. We're all afraid, These problems are universal. So, Ken arranged all of this. So when I sit down and you don't see me, see this. I may cough once in a while. At the end of a cold. So I wanted to say something about me. Some of you may have read some things, and for many years I didn't say anything about myself because I took another turn along the way. And in a way, I wanted nothing to do with my past. But my past also defined me in many, many ways and was the reason why I came to do what I do. So I came to this country at age 16 and to study music, and I auditioned to Juilliard at the prep division, and I worked there with a wonderful teacher for 2 years. Her name was Jane Carlson. I'm just looking at my notes, which I can't find them. 2 years later, I was accepted to the upper school, to the college level, and worked for another 6 years with Rosina Levine first, we called her Madame Levine, and then with Adele Marcus. And those were, I learned many, many things during those years. I really grew up in many ways. And I thought I knew quite a bit about piano playing. You know, after all, I went to a great conservatory and, you know, famous teachers. And I was thought to have a very natural technique and played with a lot of expression. And I also thought it to be perfectly normal that often I got tired, my arms got tired, and that there are certain pieces that I didn't dare to tackle. You know, I felt it will come with time. And I was told that basically, you know, just practice more and somehow things will happen. And I was taught also to continue into the DMA program. But toward the end of my master's degree, I met and started working with Dorothy Taubman. And the effect was profound, transformative, and life-changing, and it continues to this day. I had no idea that there was a huge, vast area of knowledge that had not been explored or tapped at all until Taubman came along and started asking questions, wondering why, as a gifted pianist, she and many of her friends, practicing for hours, studying, why they still felt insecure with particular passages. There were many passages that would still feel insecure. Why was there so much tension? Was that normal? Because we've normalized all of those things. You know, tension, pain. I was told if you have pain, just practice and you'll build endurance. Do we say that, you know, in everyday life, when something hurts in the body, try to find out what causes it. We don't feel well. We don't think to continue the same behavior, and somehow it will get better. Sometimes by miracle it does, but very often it doesn't, it gets worse. Why is it, she was also a teacher, why is it that young kids already came with weakness in the fingers, particularly the fourth and fifth fingers? And what is it that child prodigies had intuitively that the rest of us can learn from? What is it they did? Is it just a gift from heaven? Or intuitively they were doing something that was so natural? And why is it that many of them lost those abilities along the way? What happened? She felt that if she found out what they did intuitively, it might explain the basis for virtuosity. What makes virtuosity? It could also explain the causes for problems. What is it that gets in the way? And those were any kind of symptom, whether fatigue, tension, you know, weakness, shaking. You know, some people come and there's some fingers that are shaking. The words tendinitis, carpal tunnel syndrome, trigger finger, dystonia, other names. You know, I don't know if in those years those words were around much, but eventually they were given those names, those symptoms. In other words, she was questioning really the status quo. Why? And she saw it also in very, very young kids. So she poured into books for answers, but what they mostly talked about was finger isolation, which she was already doing. She and her friends, you know, just one finger at a time. Or to, right on top of it, to relax everything, you know, relax the upper arm, the shoulders, and everything. She knew that didn't solve the problems. Can you hear me well? Mm-hmm. Okay. So she embarked on years of research and experimentation, which gradually led to a diagnostic approach that is able to identify and shine a light on root causes of many of the problems that plague pianists and other instrumentalists. And some of those injuries are crippling. In doing so, she succeeded to demystify what constitutes a natural technique. It's always been such a mystery. It still continues to be a mystery, but it's not mysterious. It's mysterious like anything in nature. You can understand it, but you still wonder, how did it all come into being? No matter how much you look into nature and how much you understand, it's kind of inspiring. And solving those problems, and it doesn't happen overnight, removed really, she saw the barriers for growth and development, because very often the growth is stunted, with those problems. It doesn't allow them, the hands to, the whole experience of playing to grow. And she realized that unless the fundamental causes, the root causes, are resolved and replaced with better habits, the problems don't go away. And dealing with symptoms only goes only so far. And that is why there's tremendous frustration of people going, from, sorry about the doctor, but from doctor to doctor, from practitioner to practitioner, and sometimes they're good things, but it doesn't solve the problem. So to try to define what this work is difficult, because it's a body of knowledge into one paragraph, but I had to do it when I was invited to a piano music medicine convention a couple of years ago. It's called PAMA, which stands for Performing Arts Medical Association. And it's, the medical profession trying to help musicians. So I had to put in a short paragraph, and I'll read it. I think it describes it better than anything else I can say. And I wrote, the Taubman approach is a groundbreaking analysis of the mostly invisible motions that function underneath a virtuoso technique. The resulting knowledge makes it possible to help pianists and other instrumentalists overcome technical limitations, as well as cure playing-related injuries. It is also the way that tone production and other components of expressive playing can be understood and taught. The Taubman approach was developed as a result of the traditional teaching models failing to provide solutions to the common technical problems and injuries experienced by performing musicians. The approach also aims at the prevention of problems and injuries caused by inefficient or incorrect instrumental technique. So we will look at it very much also as a prevention. It should never happen. So we have teachers training to start, whether it's adults, it's children, with certain pieces of information. The more you know, the better it is, but even some few things to know, it already puts someone on the right track. What struck me as unique from my early lessons with Taubman was the fact that I could ask any question and get an answer. In fact, I could complain. And sometimes it takes people a while when I say you can complain. This is a place to complain, because we have information and can help you. But usually we're very used to complaining, and saying, go and practice more. It's not my problem. Sometimes teachers say it's not my problem. So whose problem is it? Why do we go to teachers? And I found, and it didn't always happen in one lesson. It took some time. Sometimes it's layered, and it was quite deep. But there was a rational answer why something happened. And then there were things that put into place. And if they got only so far, and that's what I practice. I practice the solutions. Because in our field, one of the things is that practice, this famous story, you get into a cab in New York and you say, where's Carnegie Hall? How do I get to Carnegie Hall? What does the cab driver say?
Right.
Practice, practice, practice. That's what we ingest. So my answer, and I've done some lectures about it, what happens when practice doesn't make perfect? What do we do? Because if you look at the facts, when we practice things that are not comfortable and we keep practicing practice, very often we get into injuries. Because we're practicing things that don't feel good, that don't work. But as I was told, that's how you build endurance. And the question is, enduring what? Pain? Discomfort? So, the question is, practice is very, very important. But I learned that I was practicing solutions. And if they only went up to a certain point, there was more. I always thought, well, this is it. Probably there's no more information. I'm feeling much better. But it's not 100%. And I would go for a lesson. And there would be more information offered. So this was totally unique, and it explains why I got so involved. Many people were involved, but I got involved to the degree that I wanted everybody to know about it. This is why I started one institute and then another institute. And for me personally, the process was and continues to be, as I find more things, really fascinating. It's hard to tell when people come after being, practicing and playing for many years, and very often they do. It's very hard to be patient. You want kind of a pill, to take a pill, and for those things to go away. But it's really a fascinating process of beginning to understand. Super interesting, and it's like solving puzzles. Why is this happening? Why is that? What do we do? And it sheds light on what has been very dark and very mysterious. It's intellectually very challenging. The brain has to be very involved. And also, for me, it fulfilled a craving to be really a useful and contributing member of society. And to be able to help others experience this unimaginable, really unimaginable transformation. That one wanted to share it with others, which is why I do what I do.